Wow, that was really reflecting outside. Like, this really looks like a window. But anyway, we're doing a bit of time traveling here because the clips you would have seen at the beginning of this are actually happening after this one. But I know when I get back, I am going to be absolutely dead. It's supposed to be 97 degrees today. It was 80 degrees at 10 a.m. I'm going to meet a friend for lunch, and we're going to the library afterwards because they're on summer hours, so they don't even open till 1. Otherwise, I definitely would have gone in the morning. So it's gonna be hot. And I know I'm going to be all sweaty and gross and feel like crap when I get back, because that is what the sun and the heat does to me. But I just finished a chapter in here. They're talking about how the citizens are basically arming themselves. They're getting ready for like an attack kind of thing. There are like pamphlets going around that are like anti-government. There are secret societies forming. There are meetings happening in the streets and cafes, and it's talking about how like the Faubourg Saint-Antoine, how that is like the center of it all, because that's where like all the workers, laborers, all of those kind of people live. And so pretty much everyone's like, yes, the attack is going to be soon, like we're increasing our numbers, we're increasing our weapon production, like all this kind of stuff. They're just like hoarding all the materials they need and everything like that. And the ABC Society is mentioned kind of at the end of this chapter. And so the next chapter I think is going to be more of them, because the title has like Enjolras' name in it. And that's actually the last chapter of this book. And book 2 is called Eponine. So I feel like now we're going to kind of jump after this next chapter and see what's going on with her, because she was not captured by Javert during that raid, even though he had said like she was. I really don't think she was. So I'm wondering if she found Marius and is kind of tagging along with him right now. But I guess we'll find out later about that. But right now the tensions are just kind of increasing. There's just this buzz. They're managing to kind of stay one step ahead of the police at the moment. So yeah, I probably won't really update you about how today goes until tomorrow, because I am honestly not expecting much for myself after I get home. I'm gonna touch the belly. Meow. I also hear Celine Dion outside. Pfft. Look at them teeth. Oh my goodness. Teethies! Teethies and belly. Show him at your belly. He just does not care. Look at that. So yesterday ended up pretty much how I thought it was, but with a little extra twist in there. So the lunch in the library went completely fine. I had lunch with my friend Ketavan. She actually just recently started her own booktube channel, Ketavan Reads, so go check her out. We had a nice lunch with really good conversation actually and everything. Went to the library, got our books, that was all good, and it was super hot. Like, I was dying immediately, but then we went to go our separate ways to go home. And there was like an 18-minute wait for the bus that I usually take to the metro, and I was just like, screw that, I'm just gonna walk the about 15 minutes it takes to get to line 9, which would take me to line 1. I do that, I get to the metro, and I'm like, I don't have my phone. And I don't like put my phone in pockets or anything. I would have had it in the bag that I was holding, but I knew I hadn't been pickpocketed. I immediately knew. I had freaking forgot it at the kiosk machine at the library. When I had checked out my books, I had taken everything out of my bag, but I had set my phone like next to the kiosk instead of the little table where with all my other stuff. So when I put everything back in for it to fit better, my phone stayed there on the kiosk. And it's so frustrating because we stayed there like 20 minutes after I did that, and I never realized, and I never reached for my phone like the walk to the metro or anything. And so I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. So I'd been walking in the sun. I was melting like from the heat. I was completely sweaty. And so I waited 10 minutes for a bus to take me back to the library, got in there, and luckily someone had turned my phone in, so the person at the desk had it. So I was able to get it back right away, so that was good, and that was a relief, because knock on wood, but I actually have never like lost my phone before. And then instead of walking back, like there's no way I could have. It was like 93 degrees at this point, I think it was. And so I waited 15 minutes for a bus to take me back to the metro, which that one takes me directly to line 1. So it is a bit more direct than if I had walked. So it definitely took me longer to get home than I was expecting. Like, that was definitely a little adventure that I did not want or needed. So by the time I got home, like, I just immediately jumped in the shower and then went and slept. And my body the whole rest of the day, even today so far, has just been really like sore, and it feels like everything just wants to like cramp up like that, and like all my muscles have just been twitching or cramping, and it's not been a good time. But anyway, I did already read my chapter for today, so that means that I am now going to be on book 2, which is entitled Eponine, but the first chapter is called The Field of the Lark. So I'm wondering if this is when she, like, we're kind of going back a bit, and if this is when she goes to find out the address of Cosette and Jean Valjean for Marius. But the chapter I just read, I'm actually going to read a bit from, but also it's pretty much about Enjolras and him kind of trying to build up the revolutionaries, because he's like, we need to know how many we are, we need to know like how many weapons we have, all of that. And so he's like, you go talk to these people, you go talk to these. And he gets to the end and he's like, there's one more group of people, and I would have sent Marius, but Marius hasn't been around. And so me thinking that he was kind of not really in the ABC Society anymore is true for the moment. Then there's this interesting kind of back and forth between Enjolras and Grantaire. And Grantaire is the one who was always like the devil's advocate. He didn't believe in everything. He's the one who was always like in the background, kind of fawning over Enjolras. It's like an unrequited love kind of thing. So he's talking about this group of people, and he's like, I don't have anyone to send. And this is on page 735, and it says, "There's me," said Grantaire. "I'm here. You, why not? You'll go out and preach republicanism, rouse up the half-hearted in the name of principle? Why shouldn't I? Would you be any good at it?" "I'd quite like to try," said Grantaire. "But you don't believe in anything." "I believe in you." And that's where I was like, oh, there's some of that. "Grantaire, do you really want to do me a service? Anything you'd like. I'd black your boots. Then keep out of our affairs. Stick to your absinthe. That's ungrateful of you, Enjolras." And then it just kind of keeps going a bit, and he's like, "I know where this place is. It's right by where I live. Like, why can't I go do this?" But then Grantaire says, like, "Yes, me. Nobody does me justice. When I really go for something, I'm tremendous." And then he goes on a bit, and it says, "Be serious," said Enjolras. "I'm madly serious." Enjolras considered a few moments, then made a gesture of decision. "Very well, Grantaire," he said soberly. "I'll give you a trial." And so they determine that he will go talk to these people. But then, and so it just kind of like goes on with the story and stuff, or the chapter a little bit. But then at the freaking end, Enjolras is the last to leave that cafe as everyone kind of goes their separate ways. And he's just like, I don't know, can I trust Grantaire? And so he goes to the cafe that he was supposed to go to talk to the people that Grantaire was supposed to go to, just to check in and see if like the plan is working or whatever. But he goes into this cafe, and this is on page 737. It says, "Grantaire was seated opposite another man at a marble-topped table scattered with dominoes. He was banging on the marble with his fist, and this was what Enjolras overheard. 'Double 6, 4, blast, I can't go. You'll have to pass, a 2, a 6, and so on." Grantaire was wholly absorbed in the game. And that's where that book actually ends, and that's where the chapter ends and everything. And I was like, oh wow, he got caught red-handed. So I actually really like how that ended. I thought that was interesting, because I think it shows more of the individuality of those characters, especially since we haven't seen them in a while. Like Grantaire especially was really just a very, very minor character in some of the chapters that had talked about the ABC Society so far. So tomorrow I will delve into book 2. And then I also have some book mail. This came in yesterday, but I wanted to wait. There's cat hair on it. But I wanted to wait to open it like on camera or whatever. And this will either be my first time talking about the series or second, depending on if the clips I had filmed when the other 2 books came in, if those actually make it into the previous reading vlogs or not. Because these are books where I would only buy them on sale, and books 2 and 3 were on sale before book 1, because book 1 rarely goes on sale. Also, I'm not sure what's going on, but the same person keeps walking past the window. But yeah, I'm gonna do my favorite part of this. Let's see if I can get it in one go. Haha, I love that. That is literally the best part about opening a new book. So there's the weird book depository bookmark. And, oh god, room here. And here's the book. This is Heaven Official's Blessing, or in Chinese, it's Tianguan Sifu. And the author is Mo Zian Tongzhu, which I'm obviously not exactly sure if I pronounced those correctly, but she is generally known as MXTX. And this is a really popular series, but how I found out about this was actually from the show. It's on Netflix with the same name and everything. And since it's Chinese, it's not called like anime like you would expect like in Japan. It's called a danhua. And then this is the novel version, which this came first. Then I believe the show did. And then there's actually a manhwa as well, which like in Japan, they're called manga. But since this is Chinese, it's called manhwa. So this is originally in Chinese. The big draw in for me is the art. Like to me, this is just absolutely gorgeous. And the show, the animation is really good quality. And then the manhwa, the art is, oh my god, the art is probably the best I've ever seen. So it's also interesting to see the different interpretations of the story. And so this thing here, this whole thing, will cover the entire first season of the show. So there'll be more like little details and stuff. It's pretty much a typical like novel with some pictures and stuff thrown in. And I know that the English versions are being split up a bit differently than the Chinese, the original Chinese ones. Like I think book 1 there is book 1 and 2 here. So now I have books 1 through 3. And now that I have the first one, I can actually start this, but it's gotten incredibly popular over the past few years, but it's not anything I've ever really looked into. And so I'm kind of interested to dive into this and see if it is something that I enjoy in this format, since I really enjoyed the danhua.
Oh, hi. Are you home? Oh my god. Hello? Why is your mouth doing that? Hello? Oh, there's the big yawn. Oh my goodness, alien boy. You look like an alien. Hello? Who's in your ear? Wakey, wakey. Look at you. Look at you. Baby boy. Hello? Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Oh my god.
I can finally be outside. I'm so happy. We had thunderstorms last night, and like they were so bad that I like sat bolt upright in bed when I heard the thunder. It was some of the loudest thunder I've ever heard in my life. It really startled me, and it also startled Ori. He was laying on Toma's desk and he just like immediately jumped up and everything. So we had some rain last night. It is now cool enough today where I can actually be out here and read, so that's nice, because I was just commenting to Toma the other day. I'm like, I feel like I've barely been able to be out on the terrace at all, like this entire year, just because of how hot it's been. So I actually just finished 2 chapters in Les Miserables. There is not much mention of Eponine, even though this book is called her name. But the whole first chapter is just about Marius, actually, and what happened after everything that went down at the Gorbeau tenement. Pretty much he cleared out right away. He's staying with his friend right now, one where it begins with the C. I think it's Corfarac. I think that's the one that he's buddy with. And so he's staying with him for the past few months. And like Javert went back to try to talk to him, but he had already cleared out. And so Javert is looking for him now. The woman he stayed with, like the landlord of where he was staying before, is now spreading rumors about him because she thinks he was involved with the crime because of how quickly he cleared out. He is just like wallowing in this despair because he's still in love with Cosette and is just like can't figure out what to do next. And he's also sending like 5 francs, I think it is. I don't know if it was sous or francs. I think it was francs a week to Thénardier in prison, and it's just like, dude, you saw how bad he is, like freaking stop. So he's still making some really weird decisions at the moment. I guess he's also not working anymore, and so he's like having to borrow money for the first time in his life, and he's just like, everything's falling apart. So he's just kind of lovelorn at the moment,
And then the second chapter kind of really shifted gears and was about some of the people that they had captured at the Gorbeau tenement and are now in prison. And it also answered one of the things I was wondering. They did end up catching Eponine later. So she was with her sister at that Mondelez, I think it was called. So she was locked up as well. But it's talking about how some of the prisoners escaped, how they do correspondence with each other, how they like hide messages and like bread and things like that. And it pretty much ends with Eponine actually getting out of jail, and her sister are now free. There wasn't enough evidence to really connect them much with what had happened, but she had been told to check out this address, which she kind of responded to as like negative, like it's a no-go. So I'm wondering if the address she had been asked to scope out is Jean Valjean and Cosette. I don't know. I feel like it has to mean something or else they wouldn't be talking about it. But that's where I'm at right now. I assume that Eponine and Marius will cross paths soon because I feel like he's actively trying to find where they live, because he's kind of like reminded of Cosette in everything he does. He thinks about her constantly, and he's like, oh, but what if she's doing the same? Like, what if she's still in love with me and thinking about me constantly, and we're hearing each other's thoughts? Like, he's going full weird right now. But the next chapter is called Père Mabeuf's Apparition, which that was the guy that had told Marius about his dad in that church and everything. And if it says apparition, I wonder if he's like passed away or something. I don't know, maybe Marius is going to dream about him. Not sure what's going to happen with that. But so far, each of these chapters, it looks like, is going to be very different from the one previous. So I'm not really sure why this book is called Eponine yet. But yeah, I'm honestly just enjoying being outside. Might even go for a walk later. Nice not having to die from the heat.
Salle 3. Salle 3.
Entrance. Oh god. So we just got back from seeing the movie Bullet Train. It was a fine movie. It wasn't anything fantastic, but it was a fun ride kind of thing. It does feel too long. Like the runtime is just over 2 hours, but it definitely feels more like 2.5. But there are some of the characters that I really enjoyed. And it's definitely one of those movies where like they don't try to explain anything, so definitely don't try to think about anything too hard here. The cameos were interesting because Brad Pitt is like the main character, which I usually don't really like him, but he was fine in this movie. And as you can tell, it's a bit windy here today. But all the other big names in this were pretty much the cameos, so those were also some of the better parts of the movie. But if it's like a genre that you enjoy, I would definitely recommend seeing it. It's definitely a popcorn movie, so I thought it was a fine time. I've also read 2 more chapters in Les Miserables, which actually closes up book 2. So next week I'll be starting with book 3, which is called The House in the Rue Plume. Okay, I don't know if it's going to be Plumet or Plumette. I'm not sure. So I think that leaves this Eponine book as being the shortest book I've read so far. There's only 4 chapters, and chapter 3 is pretty much, that was the one where it's like Père Mabeuf's apparition, and he didn't die or anything like I thought, even though he's in his 80s apparently. But basically, he was having trouble like watering his garden. He got like a little plot in the Jardin des Plantes, which I didn't even know that people did stuff like that back then, like purchase a plot in the park. So that's super cool because it's definitely something that's not done today. And so she helps him like water his garden and stuff. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so poor, like thank you, but I can't, like I don't have anything to give you. And she's like, yeah, you do. And so she finds out where to find Marius from him, because apparently since she's been out of jail or whatever you want to call it, she's been trying to find Marius. And it is for the reason I thought, because the next chapter is her finding him and letting him know, hey, I know the address that you wanted me to get. And so Marius obviously instantly like switch flips, and he's super excited and is like, you need to take me there now, because she says she doesn't know the number, but she knows the house, so she needs to like physically take him there, and it's on the other side of the city. And he's just like, you need to promise me you're not going to tell your dad or anyone else this address. And she's just like, what the fuck, brah, like it's fine, I don't really care, I'm not going to tell anyone. So it ends with them kind of like walking off to go see Jean Valjean and Cosette's house. So we're going to find out where they're currently living, and I'm interested to see if it's somewhere I can actually like find on a Paris map kind of thing, like a place that still exists. So that would be kind of cool. So by the title of book 3, it seems like we are going to stay in this timeline with these characters, and that is where we're going to start, is with them finding the house. It'll be interesting to see if they view Marius as a creeper for doing that or not. But also, like, Marius tries to pay Eponine, but she drops his money on the ground and is like, I don't want your money. And so it's just like, what the fuck do you want? Like, does this have to do with her having a crush on him, or what is going on there? So I don't even know exactly what she's going to ask for, but there is a little part that I wanted to read out loud from the 3rd chapter. It's what Eponine says back to Père Mabeuf, and I find it really interesting. It's on page 750, and Mabeuf says, God will reward you, he said. You must be an angel since you care for flowers. I'm no angel, she replied. I'm the devil, but it's all the same to me. And I don't know, I just really liked that quote from her. So that was a short and sweet book, pretty much. And next week we'll be moving on to book 3. And that's pretty much all for this week. Today is Saturday, even though I keep forgetting. Like this morning I woke up and it should have been the time where Toma is in like his daily meeting, but he wasn't. And I was like, what the hell? What's happening? And it's like, duh, it's Saturday. Tomorrow's the first Sunday of the month, but I don't think we'll be going anywhere. It kind of depends on how hot it's supposed to be. As you can tell, today is actually a really nice day, and like with the wind and everything, it just feels perfect out here. So I'm gonna try and be out here as much as I can this evening and probably read some more and stuff. Might start a different book, might continue with an e-arc I'm reading, not sure yet. But thank you for hanging out with me. It is always appreciated, and until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.